Hello and welcome to the Utah Puck Report. I'm your host, Jay Stevens. Today we're going to do some deep diving into a coach that we were lucky enough to have in Utah for a while, and you've since gone and spread your wings a little bit more, Rikard Grönborg. Rikard, tell me a little bit about, first off, let's talk about you as a player, where you grew up, and then lead us up to St. Cloud.
Oh boy, do we have time for that?
Sure.
Long story. No, I grew up in the southern part of Stockholm. Born and raised in Huddinge, which is a suburb of Stockholm. Very heavily hockey, a big hockey community, I would say. So you really didn't have much choice but play hockey in that community, and play from little squirt all the way up to the pro team there. Year 3 in the pro team, I was about 18 years old, or I have an opportunity to go and play for Montreal Canadiens tryouts. And they had the junior team, Verdun Canadiens, right there. And then I had a tryout there. And when I was at a tryout, there was a lot of universities from the U.S. watching those tryouts. And, based on that, I got some opportunities to go and play U.S. college and end up in St. Cloud State. Play college hockey at St. Cloud State as I ended up in the U.S. So that was kind of the short version of it.
Was that ever a dream of yours, like growing up, to play college hockey? Is that a thing in Sweden where you talk about going to the U.S. and playing college, or was the plan to just play NHL? Like, what was the childhood dream?
Well, if you look how old I am, we weren't really exposed at all to college hockey in Sweden. There's a little bit of NHL once in a while on TV. That's about it. Rest of it was like our local leagues were the guys you were looking up to, the guys that were playing those top leagues in Sweden, and obviously world championships, and see once in a while an NHL player come and play for Sweden and doing the world championships. That's more or less the only exposure you had to hockey in North America at all. I grew up with 2 TV stations, TV1 and TV2, and didn't really play a lot of NHL hockey or any North American hockey there. So there's a lot of obviously exposed to Swedish hockey and European hockey more than anything else. And so it was a kind of a brand new world open up for me by watching the university, and you actually have an opportunity to go to school at the same time as you're playing hockey, and that's kind of a little bit unheard of for me growing up. So that was an unbelievable opportunity that was presented to me, and obviously I'm super happy that I took that route of going to play college hockey.
What comes after St. Cloud for you?
I went back home and played a couple more years, and back then the money in the European leagues weren't very good. So after 2 years of playing back home in Sweden, I had still didn't finish my bachelor's degree when I went back. So that was kind of weighing heavy on me that I needed to go back and finish school. If I didn't do it now, I'm probably never going to finish that. So that was more or less an opportunity for me to go back and finish my degrees. And I made a decision after I played 2 more years in Sweden to go back and go back to school. And again, a very, very solid and well thought through decision on my part.
Oh, nice. You don't hear that a lot. I try to encourage everybody I can to finish that degree, because if you don't finish it now, like, life just keeps getting in the way. I just had that talk last week with one of my young firefighters. Okay, so you finished your degree, and now it's time to become Coach Grönborg. Is that how it happened?
Not really, to be perfectly honest. I had no plans of becoming a coach or getting into coaching and really stay in hockey. I was kind of a finished chapter for me. But when I got back to St. Cloud, the seniors that year were actually freshmen my senior year. So, of course, I'm going to go down to the arena and talk to those guys. And at that point, I met up with the coach, and he started talking to me and visit a little bit. And he goes, you're a pretty smart player. You should, why don't you come down and help us out, be a grad assistant here at St. Cloud? And I was going, well, do I have time for that? Because I add on a lot of classes because I wanted to finish my degree. But somewhere back in my head, it's like, it'd be a good transition for me to get back into normal life. And that's kind of what happened too. And there was like a new world open up to me, because again, I wasn't planning on becoming a coach or anything, but it was kind of a nice transition of be done with playing hockey and see it from a different perspective. And that's exactly what happened.
So you help out with St. Cloud. What's next? What's your next offer?
Well, I was there, finished off my degree, and at that point in time, I was okay. What's the next step here? and I've been in contact a little bit with a coach that coached at UW Stout, which is University of Wisconsin Stout, just across the river there in Wisconsin. Is a satellite school of Madison, and they're starting out a brand new program of Division III. And he offered me, hey, why don't you come over here, coach with me for a couple of years, get a master's, and then go out and get back into the real world. And I was going, okay, I was a pretty good student, so that's a great opportunity. So I did that for 2 years. Started that program. They got an NCAA stamp of approval my first year, and we played Division III hockey there, and coached there and helped them out, and at the same time getting my master's degree. So it was a perfect transition from going from grad assistant, finish my bachelor's, and going to do my master's degree. And so I did that for 2 years.
Do you think if it weren't for hockey, you would have stayed in and got a master's degree, or did hockey kind of help you say, hey, I'm going to stay here? These two things just line up perfectly, or would you have just gone back to Sweden with your bachelor's?
Yeah, a little bit. I was obviously having a break of 2 years of playing professionally in Sweden. It kind of got me really, I really missed the student environment. Go to classroom every day, learn something new every day. And I missed that by just playing hockey. So this was a great opportunity and further my education, at the same time being involved in athletics. And I coached women's soccer in the summer and men's hockey in the winter. So I got exposed for all kinds of different levels of the games and further myself in that sense. And I got really interested in leadership, and that's the reason I went to UW Stout too, because they had an opportunity of getting into leadership classes. We had management classes, and that's what really my master's degree is leadership. So it's kind of went hand in hand in a sense of doing the sport thing and the same thing, getting into management and do a regular job. It was a great 2 years for me to be at UW Stout.
Did you have big plans of going off and being a leader of a Fortune 500 company at this point? Like, all right, this is it. I got my master's. I'm not doing hockey anymore. I'm gonna go and be, outside hockey successful, or was it like, all right, now I'm in? Does the love of the game keep you in, or do you kind of want to spread your wings and get out?
Well, after 2 years there, I kind of felt that I wanted to reward myself for job well done, and so there were some people in USA Hockey that kind of helped me out. Well, some junior opportunities, but somewhere in the U.S. They had 3 junior A leagues there, and there was a job opening up in Great Falls, Montana, they offered me the job, and making $18,000 a year, actually making monies instead of paying money to go to school. So there was I was poured out already, so I might as well go there and spread my wings a little bit. But I never had a thought I was going to make a career. I was more of, okay, get this out of my system, be a head coach for the first time. And, you remember the junior leagues back then, you did everything. Everything from, I was only a full-time guy, so I was, more sharpening, the skates and writing the media releases. I did more or less did everything. And I think that's a good way of getting into it and appreciate people working, especially the level I'm at right now. I appreciate people around myself to do different things. So that was a great experience. I was there for 3 years, and we did some really good stuff there. And I told you a story earlier before we went on broadcast here about that level. It was the community that stood behind you, a smaller community, but the TV was there, showed interest in the players, and most of those players were based from Midwest, where I went to school, because I had my connections there. So it was a good way for me to get into becoming a head coach, but also appreciate and understand the different functions of the team. So
that's kind of funny. I had Bill Armstrong, the GM for Utah, on the show a few weeks ago, and we talked about like the importance of being that guy. It's one thing to be an NHL guy, and you're an NHL player, and now you're an NHL coach. But for some guys to go back and to go to leagues. What was it, the Mountain West League at the time? Is that what it was called, or
AWHL, America West?
America West, right?
Yeah.
But when you go to a league like that, or when you're with the Utah Grizzlies, or one of these teams where you just have to do everything, you really do. That's kind of like a master's program in itself, because you learn every little aspect of running a team, scouting, coaching, being the equipment guy, being the PR guy, and all of it. And then as you grow, you kind of know what to expect. And it's like, it's a well-rounded transition as you climb up the ladder because you appreciate all those people that do those jobs for you down the road. So it's just interesting to hear you say the same thing, that you appreciate those times.
Yeah, and it's a great, learning tool for yourself. And I just refer back to appreciate people that do those jobs that I was doing too, and understand there's a value in that instead of going straight to being head coach and that's the only thing you've been doing. You do now you're taking those steps and becoming who we are, and so it, again was a fun way for me to get involved in that. And we can go on road trips, for example, and there's like, okay, the guys have no sticks, so we got to stop somewhere on the way up to Canada or something, and the $18,000 I have to pay for sticks because we have no stick budget, things like that. And I think it makes you a little bit humble, but at the same time, you also appreciate the game and at that level, I think also the people around that helping out. You have the billet families and everything else, and it's a pretty big operations that help you out and be supportive of it, of course.
So when does Utah come into the picture for you?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. It actually refers back to the Great Falls days because I get to know some people there. And when I was in Spokane with the Spokane Chiefs in the Western Hockey League as assistant coach, and year 2 they made the transition of changing the coaching staff there. I really didn't have a job, and it was kind of clocks was ticking. There was like no offers out there at that point in time because it was so late when Spokane made a decision. So I've been helping the guys that's setting it up, and there was one guy from Great Falls that came down, and I helped him out with the curriculum. I helped him out with the budgets because I really didn't have anything to do that summer. So I helped him out with all that stuff of setting that up when he came down and was part of this organization. So, when I didn't have a job, those guys down here said, why don't you come down to Utah for a year, help us set the organization up here, and after that you move on. So I kind of took that offer, and that's the reason I ended up in Utah, to be honest with you. It was more of a situational thing, and if you look at the pattern of what I've been doing, it's kind of not spur of the moment things, but things that kind of happens, and I seize the opportunity and do something new.
I think that's, for a lot of coaches, it has to be that way, because it's, I compare it to this, it's same thing in radio. I've been a radio DJ for a long time, and I thought it was awesome. I was young, and I get called into my first ever business meeting. I think I was 13, 14 years old. I'd been on the radio for a little while, and I was pretty excited to have my first business meeting. Well, I didn't realize they were going to fire all of us in that meeting. They just said, you know what, we're changing direction. We're no longer Power 99. We're now B98.7, and we don't need all you jocks. So you're all gone. So then all of a sudden you're like, well, what's next? Because you're so comfortable. You're so into the brand. And like, it's the same thing with coaches. You live and breathe for that brand, for that team. And then all of a sudden the GM or whoever says, nah, we're going to go a different way. And now it's not like you were planning on it. You didn't have your resume ready, and you're looking for, because you're loyal, right? You bleed for that. And it's just so weird. And everybody I talk to is like, yep, I got fired, and then this was the next best opportunity. It's not like you can pre-plan all that stuff. So you end up in Utah, and that's kind of where you and I met. And you had such an influence. How long did you coach here?
Actually, 5 years. 5
years.
So that year it ended up to 5 years, and I really enjoyed it here. I loved it here. Obviously, I met my wife here, and
who lives on the same street as us. We found out.
Yeah, exactly. So we kind of became a part of the family for me. I felt so welcome down here, and we started out with one team of 25 players. I think when I left, there's like 250 players involved in that organization. We have 5 full-time guys. And just the involvement of I think we made a pretty good impression here in Utah. It was really hard for me to leave. But at the same time, as I moved down from Spokane to come down to Utah, at that point in time, there was a movement in the Swedish Ice Hockey Association that they wanted to have more influence from North American hockey, and the guys there involved. Oh yeah, I remember Rikard as a player. Now he'd been over in North America for a long time as a player and as a coach. Let's bring him back. And he can help us out in the organization. And so they came and recruited me, and so I had a pretty good gig in the sense of I was here coaching the oldest team, the 18-year-olds, and as well as being the director of the organization. And then I can go to World Championships and help out the World Championship teams. Everything from under 18, under 20 to the national team, both in World Championships and the Olympics for the national team. So I had a pretty good gig in the sense of working, having a daily work in Utah. I love Utah. I love Salt Lake when I lived here. Obviously, I feel like I'm part of the family here, as well as going back to my old family of Swedish ice hockey and helping them out there and flying into all those fun tournaments and work with the best in the world. And what a great way to learn from those guys, right? So I did it for 5 years.
There's a few things you said right there that I don't want to just glaze over, because I mean you coached World Juniors, U18s, U20s, you coached in the Olympics, and the one thing you said that really kind of surprised me is that Sweden wanted North American influence in their hockey. How big is Sweden? Compare it to the U.S. How big is Sweden?
Well, you can compare it to U.S. and Canada. I think the amount of players you have in the U.S. and Canada is very similar right now. I think U.S. actually passed Canada in the last couple of years of participants. But if you have one player in the U.S. or in Sweden, you have 10 in U.S. and Canada. So it's obviously divide everything by 10.
But that's what blows my mind, is because Sweden doesn't have as many players normally, but still has probably more NHL players per capita. Like, Sweden's known for having phenomenal hockey players, and the skill level. That's the one thing. When I think of you as a coach, I think of a guy that's coming in and teaching the high skill and the high IQ. And for a country like Sweden to say, "Oh, we want some North American influence," to me that just means they wanted more checking.
Well, that was a part of the deal, and when everything started a few years before I got involved in the association, was that they didn't have very much success, especially under 18, and it felt like they weren't producing the players. So when we going into the World Championships, we felt like the skill level we had the hockey IQ, we felt, but at the same time what they missed is a little bit of play along the boards, play in front of a net, the competition in that sense, because we're playing in bigger rinks in Sweden. And it's not really our nature to play aggressively in those areas, because we don't do it in Sweden. So they want to expose the players at an early age of this is the international hockey. This is if you want to make the step up, going to the NHL, you have to know these areas as well in order to be successful to take the next step. So that's kind of was my involvement. That's how I got hired in the first place. And then obviously I got involved in the coaching and obviously furthered myself in that sense. But that was the thought of why don't we grab the best from the international hockey, when we grab the best from North American hockey, and then mix it with the Swedish style. So it was a fun assignment to get, obviously, and we've done pretty well at the world stage, and I'm pretty happy to be part of those teams and also part of that development for sure. Yeah,
because Sweden you're always one of the favorites now. And then, as a goaltender and looking at where goaltenders come from, if you just look at the NHL, I know we did it last season. Before the season started, we kind of looked at every goalie in the NHL, and there are tons of Swedes and Finns. It's crazy with, again, per capita, the player talent level coming out of Sweden is unreal, and I know you have a part in that.
Yeah, no. Again, for 10 years, I started with the age group of 87s to be part of our under-20 team, and then I think for 10 years straight, I was with the U20s and most of them with the U18. So everyone between born 87, Nicholas Bäckström, that type of, until the 97s, so there's quite a few players obviously going that route of the national teams and moving on. So I got exposed to those guys already when coming in our program at 16 years old and see how they develop into world players. And for me, it's what a great privilege to be part of their development, and I learn as much from them as hopefully I can teach them a few things a few tricks before they get move on. So there was a great fun development. Like I said, I developed that in that environment as much as they did, and be part of that is again what a huge privilege.
Yeah, it's been so cool to watch your career. Just the interactions we had here. You're well respected. You did a lot for a lot of players here, And then it was just fun to watch, like, watching World Juniors and seeing you on the bench and stuff. Be like, hey, I know that guy, because it's just cool. Like, we know the Americans and stuff, but I think I just hold the Swedish team in a different regard. Like, there's just the skill level is so much fun to watch, offensive and defensive. The defensemen you guys have, you talk about, getting better on the boards and getting better in front of the net. It just blows my mind because Swedes are always pretty tight in front of the net. I've always been impressed with their defensive structure. Talk to me a little bit about the guys that you influenced in Utah. Name some names of guys that you helped, and who did you have the most fun coaching around here?
Oh boy, there were so many guys. I think it'd be wrong for me to just mention one guy that I coached. There was like a mixture of players because we brought in the UA team we had. We brought in some out-of-state players here to further and so we could be a little bit more competitive for the especially California teams but 50-50 was local Utah kids and guys from out of state, in the smaller states around here. So that was there's a lot of players, and we had some success, not just winning games and everything else, but we're competitive right from the start. But I've been fortunate enough to see some players to move on to further, everything from college and some are signing pros and moving on. And as it is right now, and for next year with Tappara, we have two import players from North America, both of them from Utah.
Yeah, so you've got Halloran and Brickley next year.
Yes.
And you coached Halloran this year.
Yes, I did. And obviously there's a connection there. There's a reason they're there. And, we brought in Nick. I never coached Nick. He was part of the organization. And I didn't coach Daniel either, but they were part of the organization. I think they were 7 or 10 years old when I left. So, but it was obviously the imprint we made and with the whole organization. And I kind of been following a career. I coached Nick's older brother, Alex, for 3, if not 4 years here in Utah. And he moved on and had a pretty good career of going to college and Division I and juniors up in Canada. So I kind of been following, Nick's career a little bit from outside. Obviously, Brickley is kind of funny because when I coached my first, World Championship, but being a head coach in first World Championships in Cologne, 2017, he was part of the U.S. team. So that's kind of a small world. I saw, I remember him as a little kid that was playing hockey, was a pretty good hockey player. And suddenly it's this guy that's bigger than me, it was fun to see him there and doing real well and representing U.S. at that stage, being a local Utah kid and everything else. So I've been following, these guys' career and a few other guys' career that come in from this program and see how to develop and feel proud of being part of this organization and Utah hockey. It's kind of fun now when we're looking for a couple of imports and, we probably give them offers that could have probably made more money somewhere else, but they really want to play in our environment and everything else. We have a, great team and a chance to win every year. So they kind of, stars align a little bit and both those guys are with our team.
So what team are you coaching right now?
It's Tappara. It's a Swedish or Finnish Liga. And there's a few reasons I'm there. One big thing for me is kind of challenging the truth. Everyone's talking about, why are there now no European coaches in the NHL, for example? That's a big, especially European hockey, because 30% of the players are from Europe.
Yeah.
And I said, well, we don't do anything differently here. In Swedish league, they're more or less old Swedish coaches, and in the Finnish league, they only have had Finnish coaches for 16 seasons before I showed up.
Wow.
So I was kind of challenging that a little bit. Tappara is a top team. I've been following them for many, many years. They're producing tremendous players, great ownership. Actually, one of the owners and sitting on the board is an old player of mine. So
really?
That's a little bit of connection there as well. I coach them in juniors. And also, we have NHL owners like Barkov is a big owner of our team. And so this is stable ownership. They presented this idea of we want some outside influence. We want some a little bit more North American style. Obviously, with the success with the Swedish teams and everything else, we want to bring that in and kind of change the hockey a little bit in Finland. So that was their vision. They sold me on it, and suddenly I'm sitting on the plane and go up to Finland, which I never thought I was going to be coaching in Finland. But I wanted to challenge. If you look at my track record, I've been challenging different truths out there and a coach should do and moving the coaching career. So this is kind of maybe not a natural step, but for me it was a pretty natural step for sure.
Did you guys so Nick and Brickley played together the year before last. They won the championship. How did the season go this year? You were the coach the entire year, right? Mm-hmm. How did the season end?
Well, we won the regular season. It was kind of different, just the input. So they changed in the coaching staff, and it was kind of a mutual parting, if you like, because the year before they won last 2 years. And they also won the Champions League, which is obviously the best team in Europe, the year before I showed up. So you're really taking a team that's, where you go from here kind of a deal. But we have the vision what kind of hockey we wanted to do something a little bit different than they've been doing in the past and everything else. So you taking over that team, like in Zurich, when I took over the team in Zurich, they were in 9th place the year before. You took them to first place in 1 year. So, you going in and suddenly the only thing you can do is more or less do better,
Right.
Versus here, you're already the top team, the top dog. So how do you go in and
if you lose,
exactly.
Everybody just blames you, or?
Yeah, well, more or less, I mean, there's the easy way to do, obviously, but, so if we end up in 2nd place, we're still a very good place. We're still not as good as the last year's team, right? So, but we did real well. Obviously, we won the regular season. We won the playoffs as well. So we're the champions, and and we were doing it with the vision of changing the game as well. So if you're looking at the hockey before, it was very effective and did a lot of good stuff. But now we changed it quite a bit and still can be successful. And that was the whole point of doing this thing from the management and ownership and everything else. And what a great challenge and what a great result. It was fun to work with these guys. I'm going in with a brand new coaching staff as well. They're all Finnish coaches. Learned a lot from those guys. And the dynamics in the locker room and in Switzerland was obviously a lot of languages in the locker room. And by the same time we're coaching in English, and same thing in Finland, we're coaching in English. But I have a Finnish coaching staff that can help me with communicating in obviously in different languages as well. So it's a little bit more of a challenge when I have Europe and all the languages versus here. It's like one language,
right.
Maybe two if you're from Quebec, but in North America. But this is it was a fun journey to do, and we have a brand new arena downtown, 13,000 seat arena, and tremendous support from the local fans. We have another team in our league from the same town, so it's a great rivalry. We have locker rooms right next to each other, and we'll be playing obviously sellout crowd and everything else. And we were number 1 in the league, and they were number 2. So what a hockey mecca in Finland to be in Tampere right now.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. It's incredible. I just got to let you know too. We did have Alex and Nick Halloran on the show a couple years ago. And we talked about what influenced him and what helped, Alex first get out of Utah. And the first thing he said was you. He said that the time he got to play with you is what got him, actually taught him how to play hockey. And that's something we've missed here. And that's, you say you're going to Finland and you're changing a little bit of their structure and their culture. You've coached here. You saw, sadly, we haven't made a ton of progress as far as it's still parent-driven politics a lot of times. And if your kid doesn't make the team, instead of just having them work harder and get better during the off season, you just go and start your own team or your own league. So as a coach that knows how to change structure, if you just think back to what Utah was back then, what would be your advice to those who are listening right now on how to fix Utah?
Well, what I tried to do was to merge organizations, because there were two really big organizations with youth hockey.
And which organization? I don't think we've said it out loud yet. Who did you coach while you were here?
With the Regulators, Renegades, and we turned into Chatters as sponsors. But,
yeah.
And the other organization was Grizzlies. And my biggest thing is I try to merge those two. Why don't we unify and then we can have a bigger organization. We can spread out the knowledge a lot better. We can have more competitive daily work, because I think the daily work needs to be competitive, especially for the players. So if you have, say you have, 15 good players in Utah, really good players that can move on to the next level. So why have 7 here and 8 there? Why not let them play against each other every day? And because that's how you get better, right? And then, go traveling around the U.S. and Canada and in different tournaments and try to further themselves that way. So, and then we can also retain more players here in Utah versus they going somewhere else and play, minor league hockey. So that was kind of my goal. The 5 years of here was here, but there's so much tradition of, this guy did this 10 years ago. So, and this guy said this 15 years ago. I was like, I really don't care right now. What's best for the kids,
Yeah.
Because it's so easy as a parent to just look at your kid, and I get it. I'm a parent myself. Of course you do, but my job was trying to go outside that because I didn't have any kids in the organization, so I was always, my mind was to try to get Utah hockey better, did we do a lot of progress? No, we did some progress, but I wish we could have done more during those 5 years. And obviously it was tough for me to leave, even though I had a great opportunity to go over to Sweden and coach the national team. It was really tough for me to leave here. I loved it here. My family was here, really. And I felt that we were so close of getting there with the hockey and youth hockey, and also be very competitive. And that generation with Daniel Brickley and Nick Halloran, we had some really good young players coming up. So it was a tough decision, but I had to make it for myself in order to see how far I can push myself in coaching. And I think a lot of players feel the same way. They have to lead the state in order to become a really good player, and I think that's too bad.
Yeah, I think that's the part we need to fix, and I think. Obviously there's change coming, and I'm hoping the right people hear these things and the right people get put in those positions. I do have a little bit of influence in this now. I actually have somebody's ear that's running it. And the thing I've been talking about the most is basically eliminating parents from involvement. Bring your kid, drop them off, and then we'll take care of the rest. And, obviously I want them to come and cheer or whatever, but, I ran hockey camps here for 19 years. And we'd have parents bring their kids and then lean over the glass and yell instructions to their kids while I have paid coaches who play in the NHL, who are some of the top, prospects who've been living and breathing hockey every minute. And they know this position, especially goaltenders. I had Jordan Parisi and Troy Davenport, these guys that playing NCAA or playing NHL. And I have parents still trying to talk over them. And I was like, this part needs to change. That part has to go away. And I get it. You want to help your kids. And like, again, I did the same thing. I coached my son for a long time. But what we're looking for now is I'm just going to say that you already know this, but I'm going to say this so that everybody else hears this part on this podcast, is that we want one travel team out of the state of Utah. Right now we have multiple. We have what are they called? They're not the Regulators anymore. Are they Regulators? Wasatch Renegades now? We have Wasatch Renegades. It's our only Tier 1 team. So it's the remnants of what you were coaching. They had Evan Stofflet coaching for a while, which was huge for them. I don't know who's coaching now, but we still have that program. And then we have the Grizzlies. And then we have the Dogs. And then we have the Eagles. And then we have one out of Ogden. Now we have a new one starting out of Provo. So, which is okay if you do, like, these teams are going to play against each other in the state,